It's a warm welcome here in our studio in Sarakunda. This is Star TV News and I am Dado Cham. In the headlines tonight, Barrow calls for national unity, not partisan conflicts as Gambians celebrate 55th independence anniversary. Transport Union gives government final chance to resolve transport stalemate with Senegal. Sianka Sonko appointed a new police advisor. On the international scene, Libya ceasefire talks resume in Geneva. UN calls for Syrian government to open humanitarian corridors. Diamond Princess cruise ship workers trapped in virus outbreak. Those were headlines and now the news in details. The President of the Republic of the Gambia, Adama Barrow, has called on Gambians to use the country's 55th independence anniversary as a moment of stock-taking and to unite on issues of national interest and not on partisan conflicts. Jacqueline Colley reports.
Barrow was addressing thousands of Gambians who gathered on Tuesday at the Makati Square during activities marking the country's 55th independence anniversary. In his powerful independence speech, Barrow further urged Gambians as true sons and daughters of the country to use this moment to reflect on the implications of independence, not only political independence, but also social and economic independence. Celebrating the anniversary of this historic moment should trigger thoughts to guide us redefine our individual roles as citizens of this nation in order to situate and reposition our motherland better on the global stage, he said. Emerging from decades of underdevelopment, slowed progress, retarded growth, and dictatorship, Barrow maintained that the time has come for Gambians to reflect objectively and selflessly on what needs to be done differently for better results. Barrow reminded that as the country marks the last independence anniversary of this decade, the opportunity has come for citizens to turn a new leaf by beginning the next decade much better with renewed patriotic zeal in the Third Republic. He also called on people to demonstrate what independence means to them as they prepare for the next series of national elections. He continued, "Let us demonstrate that we are capable of managing our own affairs by accommodating our differences, celebrating our successes, providing feedback with discipline, and expressing our opinions with respect and dignity." Jacqueline Colley, reporting for Star TV News.
The President of the Gambia Transport Union, Omar Cisse, has revealed that the union has offered the government of the Gambia a final chance to resolve the current predicament between Gambia and Senegal. The Senegalese Transport Union, for the past few days of weeks, has denied Gambian commercial vehicles from entering Senegal, claiming they are protecting the interests of their drivers. Binta Koli sent us this report.
The Gambia Transport Union, in a press conference on Monday, threatened to put aside any ECOWAS protocol and block all Senegalese commercial vehicles from entering the country. The decision, they said, is warranted after a series of provocation from their Senegalese counterparts. Gambian commercial vehicles and GTSC buses were denied entry into Senegal on multiple occasions. Last Friday, officials from the Gambia Transport Union went with members of the press to try and resolve the issue amicably. But their efforts were fruitless. Their vehicle was also denied entry by the Senegalese public and some members of the Senegalese Transport Union. They even threatened to set the bus on fire. Therefore, Mr. Cisse said, effect Wednesday, February 19, no Senegalese vehicle will be allowed entry. But he later reversed this decision after the government interfered. He said the government has promised to send a delegation to Dakar so as to find a solution to these problems. The delegation is from Ministries of Transport, Trade, Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Interior. Cisse made it abundantly clear that they will promote and defend the welfare of Gambians to the very last dot. He advised the government to always remember that they are public servants and therefore should act as such. He also made it clear to the government that the transport union and the drivers are out of patience. We have given them the opportunity to settle the issue with Senegal, but when doing so, they should do it in a serious manner. If they take it lightly, we won't, Cisse stressed. Mr. Cisse clarified that they are not fighting against Senegalese or their government, but they are fighting for the interests of Gambian people. He also advised the government to always put Gambians before anything and anyone else. Once the delegation returned from Senegal, Cisse said they will accept if the decision is in the best interest of Gambians. Otherwise, they will go ahead with their plans. For Star TV News, I am Binta Koli.
The Office of the Inspector General of Police informs the public about the appointment of Mr. Siaka Sonko as new police advisor. Mr. Siaka Sonko was born in Serekunda and went to Serekunda Primary School and St. Augustine's High School. Rest of the details with Mariama Dem.
He joined the Gambia Police Force in 1975, and after 6 months of basic police training, he was posted to Banjul Police Station, marking the beginning of his marathon police career. He was later appointed as cadet officer and attended a course at Hendon Training Academy in the United Kingdom in 1981. He gained promotions to superior ranks and acted under various capacities as officer commanding several units including prosecutions, CID, police training schools, amongst others. Mr. Sonko attended several seminars, including ICAO in Dakar, as well as a security seminar in Cairo, Egypt, on national security. He also served with the UNCIVPOL in East Timor as contingent commander. My general profile as police officer is that of various areas of interest, but the biggest input was the area of training and recruitment, where I served the longest as an officer. I had the opportunity of working with various police advisors from the United Kingdom and Nigeria, he stated. The Inspector General's office wishes him a successful tenure while confident that his vast knowledge and experience will help add value to the quality of police service delivery. Mariama Dem, reporting for Star TV News.
Africans in diaspora will kickstart their International Soninka Festival, a biannual international homecoming festival from 20th to 24th February 2020 in Banjul. The festival will bring together thousands of Sonikas from 8 African countries such as Mali, Senegal, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Gambia, Guinea-Conakry, and Angola, including people of African descent from France, Spain, England, America, Holland, and Germany. Jacqueline Colley reports.
The festival focuses on two major components, namely harmonization of our African Soniki language in the world and the revival of our African culture and tradition, which brought together artists, actors, musicians, businessmen, exhibitors, educationists, as well as religious and traditional leaders in the sub-region to showcase their rich cultural norms and values. The festival is organized in collaboration with the officials of the Gambia National Center for Arts and Culture and has been officially declared in their 2020 calendar. It will be a week-long celebration, conferences and historic site visits designed to remind, promote and develop our rich African cultural heritage and showcase the diverse traditional cultural performances of different cultural groups in the sub-region and beyond. Since its inception, FISO has created more awareness for Sonike and amongst other peoples in the sub-region, and also play a higher role in boosting moral, nurturing peace, stability and cultural and religious tolerance, all geared to national development. According to the organizers, over 2,000 delegates are expected to arrive in the country and Gambians are ready to host it in grand style with full of culture. Meanwhile, the delegates from Spain, United States, Paris, Germany and Holland have arrived in the country, and some delegates told Star TV that they are very happy for the warm welcome by Gambians at the international airport. The delegates were received by Mohamed Jai, president of FISO, Gambia branch and cultural dancers. Jacqueline Colley, reporting for Star TV News.
We're going for a short break and we'll be back with the international news. And now the news beyond our borders. Talks to establish a lasting ceasefire in Libya have resumed in Geneva. It is the latest attempt to forge a political deal between Libya's internationally recognized government and renegade military commander Khalifa Haftar. But as talks were getting underway, so were selling. The United Nations Human Rights Chief is calling on the Syrian government and its allies to open humanitarian corridors for civilians to leave areas of fighting. Michelle Bachelet put out a statement via her spokesman, who said government and Russian force appear to be targeting civilians and hospitals deliberately.
The port in the Libyan capital Tripoli under attack. General Haftar's forces carried out the indiscriminate strikes about the same time that 5 of his representatives sat down at the UN in Geneva for talks with 5 from the GNA, the internationally recognized government. It's now 10 months since General Haftar upended the international community's peace plans by ordering an offensive to try and seize Tripoli. The operation launched defiantly just hours after he'd met the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, who was visiting Libya at the time. In the months since, the death toll has mounted as weapons have continued to pour into the country. Despite this, the Secretary-General's envoy is keen to push the diplomatic momentum forward. Is your plan back on track?
My plan is not back on track. My plan has never left the track. It is being implemented with patience and determination despite the many obstacles.
Do you need a ceasefire before next week?
I better have a ceasefire in order to implement all the rest. But this is not a precondition.
The reason next week is important is Mr. Salame's ambitious plan to bring representatives of all the Libyan factions here to Geneva. Those talks are supposed to start on the 26th. James Bays, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations in Geneva.
The United Nations Human Rights Chief is calling on the Syrian government as an alliance to open humanitarian corridors for civilians to leave areas of fighting. Ms. Bachelet put out a statement via her spokesman, who said government and Russian forces appear to be targeting civilians and hospitals deliberately. Nearly 900,000 people have been forced from their homes by fighting in northwest Syria over the last 3 months. The Syrian government offensive to capture the last rebel-held areas has created the biggest single civilian displacement since the war began 9 years ago. Half of the 3 million civilians living in Idlib province have been displaced multiple times in the course of conflict. Al Jazeera Hashim Ahelbara reports on the crisis in Syria from Silvagozo in Turkey.
Fatoum Al-Ahmad is one of hundreds of thousands of internally displaced Syrians. She fled her village of Abu Makki in the east of Idlib when it was taken over by government forces. The building is unfinished and the family has little furniture. They cannot afford to buy a stove to heat the place.
We are scared and we pray someone will defend us. Please help us. They kill our children. They target cars, schools. We cannot send our children to schools anymore. They are bombing the area non-stop. It's insane.
As government forces close in, Fatoum has already packed up. The track outside is ready if the situation gets worse.
I have seen hopeless faces crying out of fear and humiliation. I am asking the Arabs and the Muslims, where are you? Why are you silent? Come here and see the women and children living in the open. People are on the run. They leave Idlib hoping for a better place.
Samir and his family have just arrived from Ma'arat al-Nu'man, a rebel stronghold south of Idlib. The city was recaptured by the Syrian army 2 weeks ago. As shelling and airstrikes flared up, many civilians escaped.
On one day, we counted 400 rockets fired at the city, in addition to airstrikes. Many were killed. We fled under the cover of darkness. It was so chaotic. Many were looking for loved ones whom they'd lost track of during the escape.
This is how northern Idlib and the outskirts of Aleppo look like now. Long lines of Syrians piled on tracks. Their destination is the border with Turkey. They join hundreds of thousands of people who have gathered in small areas and empty fields, hoping to cross into Turkey if Syrian government troops continue their advance. The battle for Idlib might turn into the worst confrontation since the start of the conflict 9 years ago. The Syrian army is determined the rebels must surrender, but they are defiant. Civilians have nowhere to go, and if Idlib falls into the hands of the government, they're likely to pay a price. The millions who live in the province or are stranded near the border with Turkey will have to abandon the dream they've carried for many years. Syria without Bashar al-Assad. Hashim Ahbara, Al Jazeera, Cilvagazu, on Turkey's border with Syria.
As hundreds of passengers leave the Diamond Princess cruise ship after a 2-week quarantine, some are awaiting the results of the tests to determine whether they have the coronavirus, COVID-19, that has infected more than 540 on the vessel. It is a nail-biting situation for many, not less for some of the ship's Filipino crew members who say they are working under duress. Al Jazeera, Jamila Ali Dogan reports about one Filipino worker on board the Diamond Princess.
Online ba si Dad?
For Victoria Lavado and her father, every phone call lately feels as if it may be their last. Victoria is in the Philippines. Her father works abroad, now stranded in the Diamond Princess cruise ship in Japan, where the coronavirus has infected hundreds of passengers. Despite the danger, her father continues his work as a steward. She says her family is being kept in the dark about what the shipping company and the Philippine government plan to do with those stranded on the ship.
The job he loved so much and been loyal to for some decades is not returning the same love that he's given.
Inside the cruise ship, her father gives a tour of his workplace.
We keep working. We still keep serving. That's why it's really hard, because we are still exposed to passengers, and that is the risk. We are very stressed.
In this hallway, passengers post their requests and comments outside their door, which service workers still attend to.
As weeks drags on, we worry about our immunity. Many of us are tired and vulnerable. We feel that we are not safe here anymore.
It's a sentiment shared by many. Here in downtown Manila, Filipino seafarers look for jobs abroad despite the risks. Around 400,000 of the more than 1.6 million people who work on ships globally are Filipino. They send back hundreds of millions of dollars in remittances back to the country every year.
For years, Filipino seafarers have been calling on the government to help them lobby for better protection and compensation abroad. Now they say the current crisis has exposed the Philippine government's inability to respond quick enough to the growing challenges of the global shipping industry.
We have to fit to work in the ships anyway, and we have other worries, the pirates, job security, so we are not too concerned about the virus.
They say they simply don't have a choice. For them, it's more important to address the uncertainty about whether they will be able to provide for their families back home. Jamila Alindogan, Al Jazeera, Manila.
In Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani has won another term as president after being declared the winner of September's disputed election. The result has been delayed for months due to attacks at polling stations, allegations of ringing and technical problems. Al Jazeera Ruhi Chalans reports.
Since September, Afghanistan's election commission has been sifting complaints and contested votes, trying to work out whether Ashraf Ghani has the 50% plus one vote needed to avoid a runoff. He does. It's finally announced, but only just.
According to the Constitution, we declare Mr. Ashraf Ghani, who recovered 923,592 votes, which is equal to 50.64% of the country's total vote in the election, as the president-elect of the government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan.
The incumbent is naturally celebrating.
I'm dedicating this victory of the people to the people, and as the first servants with our united team, we will always safeguard the rights of the Afghan people.
But although the decision puts months of electoral uncertainty to rest, it opens a new chapter of danger. Just like when Ghani was ruled the winner in 2014, his main rival, Abdullah, is calling the result illegitimate.
The result they announced today was the result of election robbery, a coup against democracy, the betrayal of the will of the people, and we consider it to be illegal.
In 2014, the US brokered a power-sharing agreement with Ghani president and Abdullah chief executive. This time round, the US is doing deals with the Taliban. They're near an agreement in Doha, which could be announced soon if an initial reduction in violence is successfully observed first. The US wants to bring its troops home. But the Taliban also says Ghani's re-election is illegal and contravenes the peace process. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. Barrow calls for national unity, not partisan conflicts, as Gambians celebrate 55th independence anniversary. Transport union gives government a final chance to resolve transport stalemate with Senegal. Sianka Sonko appointed new police advisor. Libya ceasefire talks resume in Geneva. UN calls for Syrian government to open humanitarian corridors. Diamond Princess cruise ship worker trapped in a virus outbreak. That's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us for tomorrow's news. Thank you.